Welcome to our 5 on 5. Please be joined today by Andrea Berryman Childreth, author of On the Edge. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.
Pleasure
thank
to
you
meet
for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. So you're a first-time author. You're writing a book. I'll read the subtitle here: Help and Hope for Parenting Children with Mental Illness. These are true stories of what you and your families had to deal with.
Yes, and actually we have other family stories in here too from people throughout the United States. They had contacted me about their own personal experience after I started my blog. But the genesis of it came really when we sent our oldest daughter, Chloe, to residential treatment when she was 13. And it was such a helpless, hopeless kind of feeling for my husband and I, and such guilt that happened with it that I started writing a blog, and then I started my book out of the blog. So as we've gone through the years, we've learned a lot of information, and we've learned there aren't a lot of resources available for people with mental illness, and so I wanted to provide a resource and guide for families to utilize.
Yeah, we hear that a lot, that there isn't enough available for people dealing with mental illness. Was that one of the ideas behind the book, is to provide some real life experience, some stories to raise your hand and say, us too, we're also dealing with this.
Definitely. I mean, and that you're not alone, because that's really how you feel. I mean, one of the things I would say to people is, if your daughter or son has cancer, you've got this whole support group who rallies around you, friends and family, and Facebook raises money and makes donation pages. But when your child's diagnosed with a mental illness, it's not the case. And the families hide in shame and stigma and embarrassment, sort of pretending like nothing's going on when behind the scenes and behind closed doors there's, a crisis. So the book was hopefully so that people could realize that even among the normal looking of us, that people have issues and are fighting mental illness. And
so you started the blog, Bipolar Lemonade, and is that kind of the genesis of that, essentially create the book?
Yep, it did. And as I made the blog and first started posting, I just remember I had so much anxiety, oh my gosh, what are people gonna think about the blog and these posts I'm doing? My daughter at the time had been diagnosed with bipolar, and I myself have bipolar and some anxiety and depression issues as well. And I just thought, gosh, what are people gonna say about me? And it was just my first post happened and people just came out of the woodwork. Friends and family, people that I didn't even know, and they followed me on Facebook so they could read my blog posts. People that I went to college with way across the country reached out to me with kids that they had issues with, and just kind of this thank you for coming out and talking about your story, because we've been affected by it as well. Wow. So it was really very powerful.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break.
Okay.
We'll have much more in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to our 5 on 5. Again, we're here with local author Andrea Berryman Childreth. Wrote your first book, On the Edge: Help and Hope for Parenting Children with Mental Illness. So how would you describe this book for people?
There's two parts. The first part covers common diagnoses, mental health diagnoses, symptoms that are involved, and then common treatments. And then the second part describes, it's like a practical guide or toolkit for parents and families who have a child that has a mental illness. So it helps to navigate the school system, how to work with your school with developing an IEP, how to find the right mental health provider, how to work with your health insurance carrier, to communicating tips with a child who has mental illness. Oftentimes their skills lacking or lagging, and so there's a different way you want to go about it versus maybe kind of the old school parenting of top down. So those are the two parts, and then interwoven throughout the book are the family stories through the United States.
Yeah, wow, okay, so it really is kind of almost a bit of a how-to, because it is complicated stuff to getting through those processes, like you mentioned. Okay, you also mentioned you hope to start a conversation, you know, and you have ambitious goals for where you want this conversation to go.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I almost want to start a movement that really raises awareness and has conversations with community leaders and legislators to talk about how stigma and shame really affect our resources that we have in our community, to funding of schools for mental illness, and as well as community programs and resources, to equitable reimbursement for health insurance. Not enough is talked about. We all kind of live in silence and shame if you're suffering from a mental illness.
Well, okay, and so people can find the book on Amazon, is best bet?
Amazon.com, and just search On the Edge and Help and Hope, and it should come up.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. 5 minutes is never enough time.
That's
I wish we had more. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back.